And today's topic is implementing agentic coding AI into your business. And some of the topics we'll cover is common misconceptions, common mistakes, whether to buy versus build, best practices, and what the heck is the ROI on these projects. Cool. So we are live with another AI companion. And today's topic, I don't know what the proper headline would be, but it's implementing agentic coding AI into your business. And some of the topics we'll cover is common misconceptions, common mistakes, whether to buy versus build, best practices. And I think I'll really enjoy the conversation is what the heck is the ROI on these projects? And are you even asking that question? So guest today, everyone knows Michael Sengbusch. He is the Chief Product Officer of Leading Reach. How are you doing today, Mike?
Well, pretty good. Thanks for having us again, Nick.
You betcha. And a new guest to the pod and also a friend and Michael's fraternity brother. So let's just put a caveat if they go a little off the rails. Nate Mansfield, he is the founder of SMB Advisors. Do you mind giving us a little intro, Nate, about you, what you do? And happy to have you plug a little bit of what you're doing because I think you can help a lot of people.
Great. Thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me on. So at SMB Advisors, we focus on helping small and medium-sized businesses with their AI strategy and sometimes build their tools as well. The whole idea is we have a background in startups, kind of like serial startup people, learned a lot of lessons in the product management and software development space. And turns out that carries over really well with helping these organizations figure out where is the ROI and how do we put AI into our business. So what we're doing.
Awesome. I'll set the stage and I'll turn it over to you all. I love it that you're both here because you're both living this life right now. Michael, you have the very typical use case of a lot of like SaaS companies. It's like, we woke up today and we have to be an AI company. What the heck does that mean? On the other side of that, we have what I would call tech-enabled services businesses that are now saying, well, if AI is here, maybe there's like a lot of hype, maybe there's FOMO out there, but I need to start putting AI into my organization to be relevant. Neither of those are easy to do. And there's a lot of misconceptions, bad assumptions going into those projects. I would wonder if either of you, Michael, I'll turn it over to you first, because for Leading Reach, you probably asked these hard questions about what does that look like? And you had to probably challenge your board, your CEO, and like, hey, the CEO goes, hey, we're going to the moon. You're like, yes, but.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
I'll turn it over to you with that.
Yeah, well, let me start off by saying Nate and SMB Advisors helped us with early adoption for AI. It was very much 2026 is the year of AI. You have pressure from executives, you have pressure from a board to say, what are we doing in AI? And it's literally that simple. And that first step, especially with healthcare, right, is some type of a approval security policy on which tools are we allowed to use. Okay, so that's a thing that takes time. And then there's, once that's been approved and budgeted, starting to adopt those tools. And there's training, there's lessons learned just to get to some level of adoption. And then what we've seen in the first half of this year was we did all those things and we've gotten to a level of adoption. And I think adoption's been uneven. And whether that's specifically with the engineering team or broader. And I run the engineering team as well. So there's, how are we using AI to build code faster versus how is the business using AI to run the business faster? Totally different types of people, use cases, and technology. I think that adoption's been uneven because people are learning. And we've learned a lot. And then very quickly you get you're going to spend like 6 figures on AI stuff this year. What was the ROI on that? And you kind of just go, it's helping. And you get a lot of anecdotal things, right? You get a lot of anecdotal using AI. We were able to complete a project that would have taken 2 weeks in 2 days. Okay, good. It's a good start. But as far as like, are you increasing productivity? Is it creating more problems than it's worth? How are you learning? Can you trust it? These are all things that you're learning. So the way I approach it with the board is, I got a board meeting next week, actually. The AI slides talk about two things. The first one is we got a handle on costs. We think we can understand how much this is going to cost. It's predictable. That's good. And the second thing is we're using it. Adoption's uneven, and I don't have a great ROI story for you right now. And kind of let me tell you why. So I don't know. Does that set the stage pretty good?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Nate, what about you? You walk into some of these. I mean, Michael has to be an exception because he comes from an engineering background. He's done this before. He's built product. I'm also a client of yours. We had far less. We did not have a chief product officer. So we threw a lot. I think what we threw at you was way more nebulous. But so, well, what are like people like me, people like Michael? What are you seeing as common misconceptions?
Well, so what we saw with you was actually really helpful, and maybe in some kind of cases a lot illustrative.
Helpful is like, hey, I can't believe how little this guy knows.
Well, but here's
Let me
here's
talk
what
to you
was
like
helpful.
a second grader.
Here's what was helpful. You had excellent documented SOPs.
Okay.
Right. And so when you have that, it is pretty easy to start picking through where there are opportunities to put AI into this thing. Now, what is interesting is a lot of the putting AI into your business is not actually putting AI into your business. It's using AI to build the tools that are doing those SOPs that are your business, right? And so that was like the starting point of a lot of what we did for you, which is just to say, hey, you understand your SOPs. It's great. There's a lot of them. Holy smokes. And then that gave us the ability to start to say, well, how can we put a better tool in there? How can we make this just go faster or easier or less just unpleasant for the humans that have to deal with it? So working with somebody like you is actually really, really great. Where we get into trouble, is when there is just, for whatever reason, still a desire to kind of AI wash like what a company does. And just to say, hey, we need to throw AI into our product. Cause there is, to Mike's point, there's that pressure. There's like, hey, what is our AI story? But unless you have the, you kind of like that background in building products and thinking through like, well, what problems does it solve? And then, how are we going to build it and how are we going to maintain it? And now I could start to calculate ROI and make sure that if we're going to spend 6 figures on something, it's going to be an easy enough question to answer. That's when we tend to get into trouble, is when we just have a more of a mandate is to do a thing rather than, hey, can you help me sort through this problem? But with Mike's team, it was great because, they're all from that engineering background. So we can all just kind of like speak a common language of, okay, we understand use cases and lightweight business cases and, just the evaluations of trying to go through and think about how to put a new piece of technology into something.
That's really good. Mike, you got a comment on that?
No, I think we're all, Nate touched on it, but I think we're all wrestling with, give us an AI story versus maybe like, is it the right AI story?
Mm-hmm.
And what we wrestle with is, are you bolting on AI or are you changing the business ground up with AI? And I think you start with bolting on AI, meaning we've got these existing systems, this existing process, and we're going to incorporate AI to help us do the thing that we're already doing faster. Okay. And that's where you see those immediate benefits. But it's not really changing how you think about it. It's just making you do it faster, as opposed to ground up. Are there agents? Are there things that can actually rethink how we even do this from scratch? And that requires a mind shift change. And what I think we're running across is there's kind of like 3 different types of kind of AI adoption skill sets, or maybe AI types of employees. There are definitely some people who are very quickly getting to AI first, and they're doing really cool things. Very innovative, changing how you think about stuff, whether that's engineering folks or one of the best guys in terms of AI on our team is not even like an engineer. He's in IT and just starts to geek out on stuff and is making internal products that internal stakeholders love. And I don't really care what's going on underneath the hood. We have happy internal customers. They're like, we like what that guy built. That helps us. And it's like, good, like do more of that stuff. So you have people like that. I think those people are rare. It's hard to find. So the more of those people, the better. The second type of kind of skill set or person that I think we have is they're very much like adopting AI. They're learning. They're embracing it. It's helping. Maybe they have a healthy skepticism, but they're saying like, yeah, this is like, I'm adopting it. I'm using it. Maybe it's not quite AI first, but it's like AI aligned and they're using it. And then you kind of have a third group of folks where there's some AI resistance. And the resistance that you see there is, well, the old way was faster. Or I could just do it the way I've been doing it and it's faster because, and then list all the problems with AI. And there are some, okay? There are still some where correctly in this kind of third group, there's a bit of a, like, we don't trust Claude to drive yet. I'll let Claude ride in the car with me. I'm not letting him drive. And what happens is, and this is correct, like I'm saying, there is some healthy, correct skepticism here in this AI resistance. We're in healthcare, so you can generate code more quickly, but do you have to have a human go through and like review all that stuff? Now, there's things that you can do to mitigate that, but at the end of the day, if you really want to go faster, there's a little bit of like, let Claude take the wheel, and I think people are just like, not there yet, rightly or wrongly.
That's really good. I think, I don't know where this person falls in, but you have the, I don't know, Nate, you were sharing before we hit record, the overeager salesperson that starts building, agents with one line of code and they start running amok through the organization. And it's like, well, that's not really an agent, or that is a big piece of code and you're distributing it across the whole organization. There's no infrastructure, there's no safety, there's no compliance, and there certainly isn't any use case. I don't know if those are that's the screen when we start looking at this, but like, what is an agent, I guess, or what is a tool? And then what is the proper framework to start making a judgment? I mean, we kind of hit all around it, but is there like 4 simple things that we do? Because I think we've all seen the horror stories of $1.25 billion of spent on Claude tokens, without even with no safety guards, data being stolen. I mean, gosh, even like the Hugging Face thing was crazy. So yes, the fears are real, but safely, all the lessons learned of SaaS are not being applied here when we start developing an AI. I just don't understand that.
Yeah. So a couple of things in there. So the one of the things that I love about AIs and that Mike touched on with kind of that IT gentleman, is that you have now people that maybe don't have a technical skill set that can now do highly technical things to like solve a problem that makes their work life a little better, right? And that was my first attraction to these products. Is I had to help a customer reply to a RFP from the GSA, and it was like an 80-page long document, and that is squarely in the realm of things Nate doesn't like to do. And this thing helped me do it, and it did a better job than I would have done on my own. And that was kind of like my initial spark that was like, okay, this is a thing, and I can see this. So that's great, and you want to encourage that, but you do need to have some sort of a governance framework that starts to say, okay, well, where is it okay to do like the little things that make your job easier, right? And so like the easiest explanation is like helping you draft an email, right? Okay, that's a no-brainer, like great. Helping you just synthesize a bunch of data that is sitting in your Google Drive or something like that. It's like, hey, help me get my head around this large piece of information scattered across dozens of hundreds of documents. Like those are good, pretty safe use cases that provide a lot of value in the class of buy back people's time, right? And that's where we tell every one of our customers to start. Just start buying back people's time. Now, if we take the example I was telling you, is we have a customer, their salesperson went off and built a great tool. And it was awesome because you don't usually think of a salesperson as being the first people to jump in and build technology products that, make the whole organization better. But then the challenge came around with all the things that are not present when you vibe code something in Lovable, right? It's, you don't necessarily know what the security is like. You don't have any real infrastructure backing it. So when you deploy it, what exactly are you deploying to production? You got 150 people that might use this thing. What's that's actually going to cost you? Like there's all these things. And so, you need this governance framework that says, hey, that's great. We want to encourage these people. We want these AI native individuals that can take our business processes and make everything go better and easier. But we need to harden these things, and we need to make sure there's the appropriate, like, hey, somebody actually looked at this with the right engineering mindset to say, this is not going to come back and bite you in the butt, or now we've altered our business because of this really awesome tool, and then it explodes one day because we don't have those things in place. So yeah, that kind of like governance framework and structure in there, that's definitely a big emerging theme that organizations are going to have to think, okay, do this. Let Claude ride in the car with you. That's totally fine. Be your co-pilot. Maybe let Claude give you directions, but yeah, don't drive through the school zone, Claude.
Yeah. And to extend that analogy, Nate, it's like if you're letting Claude build cars for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where we're dealing with that right now, where we have some super smart people who are building some stuff. And this actually happened last week. It was, I built a bunch of stuff and like, can we put this in the GitHub repository and can I get some QA to help me test it? Cause I can't maintain it anymore. And it's like, whoa, thanks. Cause you just created a problem.
Yeah.
You solved a bunch of problems, but then there was kind of a like, hey, everybody really likes this. Throw it over, like, y'all support it. And it's like, whoa, shit, what is this? Like, what happened? Like, who made what? Like, what are we going to do with this? Like, I love it. Like, thank you for doing it. But now this just created does somebody need to audit this? Do we need to put some testing around it? Like, what happens if something breaks? What if you leave the business, but now I have a sales team relying on the thing that you just built?
Yeah. 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 It actually, that touches on another really excellent use case that is, I think, some low-hanging fruit that provides a lot of value is exactly that. How do you keep that institutional information inside of the business, right? So, if somebody is building these tools and collecting these things, make sure that it exists somewhere. These AIs are great at capturing and disseminating that information. I think every organization should have some sort of a process to say, hey, our really critical things, how do they get done and where is all that information kept? So that when we bring somebody new into the organization, it's easier to bring them on. Or if somebody does leave, all of that ability didn't just walk out the door with them.
That's really good.
I
just think
one
the
last
other
little
part
thing there.
Go ahead.
Yeah. The cost component, this was a huge topic at this conference I just went to, and it's something that everyone is grappling with. And, I have two observations on this. One, and this kind of gets back into why you still do want some technical people around. Not most, but very much of what people are using these tools for, you don't need an AI to do, right? So there could be a specific workflow that you could get Claude to do. You could get ChatGPT to do it for you. It's going to cost you a lot of tokens. What you should do is have Claude build a workflow in some orchestration tool. We use N8N because now you've just built a tool that is going to do that one thing over and over and over and over again, really, really cheaply. And then you don't have to spend, $8 per transaction to do that thing. You can just have an automation that does it for you.
Tell me about that tool, because I don't think our audience is going to be as up to speed about what that tool is and how that works and why it's important.
Yeah. So N8N is like a workflow tool, right? So you can connect it to a lot of different repositories of information. So for example, we have a workflow that monitors a specific inbox. When an email comes into that inbox, it starts to parse out what are some key pieces of information we need to pull out of it, right? So I need to know the name of the product, its weight, where it's being shipped from, other just dimensions that are important for us to get so that then we can put that in our ERP. And then from our ERP, we can start, getting it pricing and doing everything else that we need to do to it. But just that little workflow of, hey, I got to go through this email, get all the information out of there. Oops, they didn't provide it. Let me go email them back. You could 100% get Claude to do that. Claude will read your email and get all that, but that's going to cost you a few dollars in tokens to do that every time. So N8N lets us connect to Gmail. It has all the logic, knows what to look for. It pulls it in. It then actually hands the text of that email off to a very low cost AI that reads the email. So it's not like, Opus reading your email. It's a really cheap Gemini model. It reads it, extracts the data, and then it uses another model to craft a response to say, hey, person that emailed this to me, can you also provide me these 3 things you didn't give me? So anyways, that kind of a workflow and being able to orchestrate that and then at the end, put it into our ERP. That is what N8N does for us. The great thing about N8N is I don't think Matt or I have ever touched building a workflow in N8N. Claude does all of it for us. So that's the example of spend those tokens to build the tool, and then the tool operates your business much cheaper.
I love that.
The other less approachable now, but about to get easier, are these local open weight models that are becoming a lot more popular. Big organizations are already doing that. What's that?
Are you using Chinese models?
I do. I've got a couple Chinese models in there. But yeah, these you can get Meta has a lot of good models. Google has a lot of good open weight models. And there are a lot of really good ones out of China. But yeah, they're getting a lot more approachable, both from a skill needed to maintain them and the hardware needed to run them perspective. So, I think that's something that organizations that have huge token spend probably should start looking at, like getting their teams familiar with these local models.
Yeah. So my takeaway from this conversation, or just my observation, I was thinking about this is in the old days, like a guy like me, key person, non-technical in the SaaS company. I've been doing this for 20 years. When I had an idea, I had to sell it to the chief product officer. It's like, cool, we'll put it in the roadmap and we'll go through the review process. Now I just circumvent that person and I just build something and I throw it at whoever is using it. And I get I have a quiet mutiny on my hand because everyone loves my little tool I built, but it didn't fit product roadmap. It didn't go through the proper check-in process. And to your point, it's not QA supported and it is not, and it has no use case to the actual business. And so that was my big takeaway from that. Shifting gears a little bit, want to talk about our current tech stacks, buy versus build versus replace. Have you replaced, like Michael, I'll throw this to you. Have you replaced any SaaS apps or tools with AI yet?
No, right now, most of these things are bolt-ons. And I think I said, we're getting comfortable building internal tools. Have those internal tools replaced existing tools? Not yet. We're getting upsold on existing tools that are offering AI functionality, which we do want to take advantage of. We have some good examples of that. Some that I think didn't work, but some that I think are good. But yeah, we haven't yet done that. And you hear stories about, building customized internal tools to replace enterprise software. I think that's awesome. I think you do need to have very large engineering teams in order to support that. But you can make the ROI calculation pretty simply if these are expensive pieces of software that you're replacing. So yeah, no, we haven't yet done that. But we are conscious of not just token spend, which I think is coming down. We've noticed that. So we feel like we got to handle, it's not exploding. Now I think it could go get cheaper. That'd be great. But we're not at the point yet where we're replacing it. And I know that's where things are going.
Yeah. What's your take on that, Nate?
We replaced a SaaS product with an agentic product, and we also replaced our own agentic product with a SaaS product. So,
Okay, that's funny.
yeah. So the lesson that we learned there was, and I think like everyone's kind of realizing this because now that the SaaS apocalypse is behind us and people have kind of righted themselves, a lot of these products put a lot of thought into all of the workflows and processes and functions and how data moves and is handled and stored. And when you start to try to bite all of those off, it's like, holy cow, there's so many, edge cases and just things that you have to think about now. And so we started the business by building our own CRM. And it was awesome and it was fun and it was tied right into ChatGPT and I could just talk to ChatGPT and it'd tell me all this stuff. But then it was like, well, now how do we start a project and how do we link these connections and how do we put it into a pipeline? And so like all of the,
Yeah.
okay, well, guess what? Now we bought Monday to go handle that for us, right? But now we just talk to Monday through whatever our AI that we want to use is. So either I prefer ChatGPT, everyone else likes Claude. So great, we get the same thing, but we replaced our own AI product with a SaaS product. We got rid of I have another business where customers can book appointments and do things. I replaced that one. We were using Square to handle all of that, and they upset me with a price increase. And I was like, all right, well, I don't really need to do this anymore. And in a few weeks, we were able to stand up a much better system that works a lot better. So we've done both. I think the buy versus build thing is when there is the opportunity to really differentiate what you do. You should probably really think about building it because you can just put in your own special sauce.
Yeah.
But if it's not really going to present a huge competitive advantage and there's like complex workflows and things that problems others have already solved, just buy it.
Yeah. One of the interesting things I've observed is just in my own preference now with AI on the table is, we have, there are some tools I just hate, like QuickBooks. I just hate it. I want to build an accounting system just out of spite. But on the other side, there are really valuable tools in my industry. You know them like SEMrush, Ahrefs. They're really valuable for the data behind them. But what I've noticed is we don't use their AI at all anymore. We just call their data. And I'm starting to see a lot of these software companies, who I think are smart, that have access to data that are just allowing you, and I think Salesforce is going this as well. It's like these headless platforms where you're just using it to put into your AI tools yourself. Because like I can't just look at SEMrush. I have to have 3 other sources to actually cross-verify because that's the insight I'm giving my client. And I have to do it through my tools, which gives me a differentiation, which is awesome because I'm on my tools and I'm crunching numbers at a higher level than just manually going tool by tool and trying to have a strategist figure it out on their own or use AI to read PDFs that we download. This has been way more effective to me. So I'm actually excited about that piece of actually buying new, I actually don't really call them SaaS anymore, but data sources for my tools.
What do you do, Nick, when you do that? Are you dumping the data somewhere?
I don't know, Nate. What am I doing? I just say, this is what I want, and Nate does it. Nate helps my team do it. I think there's 2 or 3 guys that that's another probably key point I want people to know. You got to appoint an AI czar in your company and somebody who's going to actually take the reins and start building, or at least be responsible for the spend. But so anyway, Nate, I don't know what we're doing.
No, you're not dumping it into a separate data lake or anything like that. You're still connected to your data sources for what you're doing there. But Mike, that is a really common thing, especially in industries like yours that are pretty tightly regulated. Making sure that you get whatever this information is into the right the type of environment that has the right posture to make sure that you're not going to get yourself in trouble. That's a huge thing.
Well, we're doing a project right now. This is, I guess I'd say tangential to AI. Maybe a prerequisite for AI is we're doing a data lakehouse project where we are taking our existing kind of transactional product data. We're moving it into a lakehouse. We're going to combine that with other internal data like CRM data, customer data, product usage data. And then that opens up the opportunity to put AI on top of that and then talk to all of our data. And then there can be a facet of that, which can be some generative BI that we're going to build for customers.
Mm.
And then there's how do we put AI for internal use so that we can ask questions about what's going on in the business on top of this. So that's a huge project that we literally kicked off on Monday. It's going to take us a few months to kind of port data, build this data lakehouse on AWS. And then in 2027, it's going to be all about what do you build on top of this? And that's going to be just perfect for AI because what we have right now is not.
Mm. It's kind of amazing you can even attempt that now.
Pretty excited about it. I think it's going to be cool.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nate, you gonna say something?
Then it goes back to like, I'm assuming you're going to use a lot of Claude to help you build that thing. Just because it's crazy how fast you can use these AIs to build a nice little repeatable tool. It's like everyone owns a factory now that can just crank out whatever tool that we need to run our business better.
Yep.
That's really good. That's really good. So, the other question I wanted to just a really practical one for everybody is, when your CEO tells you we're going to the moon, we're an AI company now. Not so much how to speak to that individual, but where does someone start? You mentioned SOPs, Nate. I don't know. Like some of it was like you were playing psychologist with us too. You were walking us through just the mindset we had to have with implementing tools, and you helped us pick out a very easy win, so we could have our aha moment, as you called it. Could you maybe expound upon that?
Yeah. So a couple things. It goes back to a little bit about our earlier discussion on ROI and trying to set up the organization to, put a new piece of technology in play that they're not only amazed by, but are proud of, like, wow, this is actually meaningfully impacting our business. Right. And so the first part of that is being able to spark people's imaginations. Because if you're not familiar with these tools, you don't even know what they can do and what's possible. And you're the business person. Like, your business, the function that you do within your business. And until you have that aha moment that's like, oh my gosh, I can now see how all of these things that have slowed us down or we've always wanted to try, I can now see how that's doable. You just have to have that moment. And so part of what we try to do is at low cost, find those moments for people. Like we call it the art of the possible, just making sure that various people throughout the organization can start to see, oh my gosh, I can now connect all these ideas and these things I've wanted to do. And here we go. Now, the downside of that is you're just going to get this flood of ideas and things that you could do. And you might already have some. You might have like your whole existing, backlog or wish list or whatever that you want to throw in there. But if for whatever reason, organizations tend to just haul off and start doing them, and they don't necessarily do what we always used to do, which was figure out, like, hey, what's the business case for these things? So when I put my product manager hat on, I go back to my agile days and I say, okay, well, what's the lightweight business case? And so we'll kind of help you say, all right, here's this thing you want to do. You want to build feature X. All right, well, what's the business case for it? Okay, great. Now we've got 50 things we could do. Let's start to line those things up and put them in some sort of a framework that lets us go in there and say, which one should we do along the following dimensions? Because it has a positive ROI, but it's also low-hanging fruit that immediately starts to impress the rest of the organization. And so we actually use another agile artifact for that. It's called the weighted shortest job first calculation, which tries to take all of that into account and just stack up of all the things that we could do. Which one should we start with, and which are the ones that maybe we'll get to those when we run out of other things to do.
That's good. Michael, what was your aha moment? Or art? What would you call it? The
art of the possible.
Remarkable. Art. Okay, I think.
Oh, geez. For business, kind of like
I can tell you ours.
Yeah, no, do yours. I'll think of one. Go ahead.
Because for us, we're so data heavy. This sounds really stupid, but dashboards. Like it was a simple project. It was just integrations for the most part. But to be able to see multiple silos of data on dashboards for us was such a win. It was such a win. Now we're moving towards automation of some of these really manual heavy lifts. But for me, particularly showing my team, and you talked about those late adopters. We had people that have been doing this research, by hand forever. And for them to see like, well, one, I never start like as I do a lot of the external, I do a lot of the sales. And so now I'm doing all my own analysis. Like the strategists are like, how did you do that? Right. They're like, now show me, like you just did a magic trick. Now show me how I took my thumb off, like, okay, show me behind the hand. They wanted to see what was going on, how I did that. And that got really people energized, I think. And, that was that tipping point that you talked about, Nate.
Yeah. I think I had a recent aha moment a few weeks ago where starting to go beyond just help me organize an email, help me take notes to, oh yeah, this is connected to lots of our systems right now. So when you have it connected to a combination of Jira and Confluence, and Nate, you can probably appreciate this from a product standpoint. When you have it connected to those repositories and you have it connected to maybe like a Google Drive or email, the ability to access information and have it compile information and give you updates without talking to your team, it was just like I knew it did that, but I didn't really know it did that. And those are real simple ones. The other one was I was telling you this example of one of our IT guys who has been building tools. I'm like, dude, how did you do this? And he's just basically vibe coding cool stuff because he was interested. And, frankly, it was like more impressive than some of the stuff parts of the engineering team were doing. And it's like, I'll give you the funny part of that story too. He's spending like 10 times as much in tokens.
Yeah.
And I was like, guys, I don't care. He made people happy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's also part of the step. Like you kind of have to have your token slush fund and like be willing to break a few eggs.
Yeah. I think you have to be willing to as long as you have some caps on it, right? You don't want those horror stories of like uncontrolled spend. But if somebody goes out and builds something cool, I talk to the team a lot about this, which is really focus on the results. If the results are on time, if the results made somebody happy, like I don't really care how you got there, right? I don't care what it costs. Like that's a different problem to solve. I'll solve that problem. Like don't worry about that being a barrier. Like we want to encourage you to do those things. If it's successful, if you wasted a bunch of tokens and it was not successful, then just position it that way. Hey, we learned some stuff. This is how it worked and whatever. But if you made somebody happy, especially people outside of R&D, just do that.
I love that buying back time too, Nate.
Yeah, it's just, any organization that wants to get started, just think of those opportunities. Like just think of what Mike just talked about that moment. So think of what it would be like if an executive of a company said, hey, I need this information, guys. How many people consumed how many hours to be like, oh man, what does Mike want? I'm like, okay, I got to make this look good. I got to go find all this stuff. So they're going to spend untold organizational hours to pull all that together and then Mike's going to have to wait and he's going to get it and maybe what he wanted or didn't want. And God forbid he has to ask them to redo it because then they got to spend all that time again versus, I don't know, would that take you, Mike, 15 minutes to ask it? Yeah. So that he just bought back probably like 4 or 5 people's time just by doing that.
That's really and it lets us do things like, kind of sanity check a few things. It gives you, it's just very, very useful. And then you get to the next step, which, more from like an executive level, the ability to compile information in a visible way, whether that's a slide, whether that's an email, whether that's a list, whether that's a spreadsheet. The time savings there is incredible. And then it gives you this ability to sanity check things because it's catching stuff for you that you might have missed. It's like, hey, this didn't make sense. Are you sure you want it like this? All that stuff, I've started to find it to be extremely helpful. And then more aha moments when whether you're using ChatGPT or whether you're using Claude, and I see it more with Claude than I do with Gemini. I use Gemini a bunch too. There's a inherent, like, I'm learning, like it's learning more about what you want. There's been a few of those ahas where it's like, nope, you got it. You understood what I needed.
That's great.
Based on learning. That's pretty
great.
cool.
So speaking of the learning, this blew my mind 2 weeks ago. So we have an AI problem. I use them all and spend probably way more money than I should on them. But I love how well ChatGPT understands me, and I use it to craft like some of my more delicate or just challenging communications. Like if this is going to be kind of hard to communicate, like I'll use it for that, and it's great. So we're trying to fill a sales role, and I got pretty excited about something, and not everyone was moving as fast as I'd wanted, and so I was like, okay, ChatGPT, can you help me write an email that is not clearly Nate being annoyed, right? And that's what I wanted to do. And it knew what was going on because it sees my emails and everything like that, and it was like, okay. And it started its response with this. It's like, here's your email, but let me make an observation and something let me tell you something I've observed about you, Nate. When you get excited about something, you tend to get annoyed when people don't move at the same speed you want to move at. And it's not that they don't care. They just move at a different speed. You need to recognize that and slow down. That was an AI like giving me like coaching and feedback that I didn't ask it for. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. So I'll slow my roll
I'm
here.
gonna have to step away from the computer for a minute here and think about that, ChatGPT.
Yeah. I sat probably for a good 5 minutes just stunned that this machine just coached me and was dead on. I was like, well, okay, feedback taken. Good job.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really, really good. We touched on it briefly earlier, but security concerns, data privacy. Mike, this is really close to you. I noticed with us, it's great when we have the public research that we're pulling those tools into dashboards. We don't do it with our clients' own GA4 data, proprietary data, things in our drive. That starts getting really tricky. And I'm not even sure. We just lock it down for now, but like, your heart breaks a little bit. You're not using AI and all that, but like you just can't.
Yeah, we absolutely have that problem. I think a lot of the things that we want to take advantage of are locked down because we can't touch it. Worries about autonomous agents, worried about access to sensitive data, whether it's kind of contract data or kind of PHI data. And, what would be the reality of a PHI breach into AI? It could be likely. Is there any fallout from that? How would you know? There's too many questions around it. And then we also get some contractual pressure from customers who are basically making us say that we're not doing that. So kind of siloing PHI is a challenge. The way I've approached it is it's no different than any other security policy that we have. So like, let's not make more of a big deal of it than it is because it's AI. A lot of the concerns around like, well, what if this AI or this agent had access to some sensitive data? Okay. But that's no different than what if you as an employee sent an Excel file with a bunch of PHI in it, right? That consciously you did that. That's a problem. There's fallout. There's, procedure to follow if that happens. So the only way that somebody would expose AI to a bunch of PHI would be the same kind of conscious decision. Like, why'd you have that on your laptop? Why did you connect AI to that directory? It's no different than like, why did you paste that information into the email? Maybe it's a little different. I'm not trying to draw a direct parallel, but any type of breach that you're going to have, I don't think it's necessarily greater because of AI. It's just another thing that can happen. But we lock a lot of stuff down because of that. And I think a lot of people would prefer that that wasn't the case, but that's just what we have to deal with for now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a lot of the, my observation is the security threats that we find the most vulnerability are still the same old threats. It's mostly phishing. It's largely, and there's a new attack surface because so many clients want to communicate with us on Slack. So we're like email was something we locked down. We make sure everyone's, aware of phishing campaigns, but now we're like, well, now we've opened up Slack and now Slack wants to integrate with our drives and wants to like that's a new attack surface that bothers me and that we've had to lock that down. And so, yes, we may communicate slower with clients, but it's just not something we're comfortable. Slack has gotten Salesforce, I guess, has really gotten to the bottom of. So we are having these software platforms that are pushing more into AI, but they're pushing more into our data too, where there actually is sensitivity. That bothers me a little bit, but mostly to your point, I phishing campaigns are still the thing, and now they're automated and enhanced by AI to try to like think about psychology. They're a little smarter. It's not just, hey, this is a spoof where Nick's asking for you to buy me 20 Amazon gift cards and send them to me in Nigeria. It's a little bit more nuanced than that now. And, they're Calendly links and there's all kinds of things that we've seen that are pretty nefarious. And so I think having your baseline security is still the number one thing. I don't know, Nate, do you have an opinion on it?
No, I think you guys did a really good job talking about, how to protect your confidential or private data. That data security, data sovereignty question is another, in addition to cost, it's another theme that are pushing more organizations into those local models. Quite frankly, sometimes they just don't trust the frontier labs with their data or they just need tighter controls than they're comfortable with these off-the-shelf products.
Well, cool. We're running up on our time. Got one last question for both of you. Give me a prediction going in the next 6 months. Where are we looking with either agentic coding, AI, whatever you think? Anyone got a hot take? I don't put you on the spot.
Nate, you were just at a conference. I want to hear your hot take.
Well, that's a good one.
It's not really all that hot of a take, but the topic of just governance is gonna just continue to be bigger and bigger. And, I would assume one of these labs is going to start to come out with like a really approachable way for organizations to start to implement that. Because it's really driving a lot of the barriers for them to continue adopting.
Mike, you got one?
I like that. I think it's I don't know. I can at least speak for what we're doing. I don't know what's going to happen in the industry. It seems like token costs are coming down, which is a positive development. I love what Nate was talking about with hosting local models as a solution. I think there's going to be as people figure out what best practices are, at some point that fits in. If you're a sufficiently large company, you're going to do that. I think that's amazing. And then what we're but what we're trying to do for the second half of the year is dial in an ROI calculation. And you can do it. It's a hard one. I don't think anybody's written the book on it. Tracking productivity. Are you moving faster? Are you generating more lines of code? Did you ship things faster? Obviously, that's a good one. Can you avoid hiring people? For us, that's going to be the thing that we want to figure out in the next 6 months is put a number on it.
That's good. For mine, I'm going to steal mine from Mark Andreessen. He was making the observation. This sounds really weird, but he was like, these AI frontier models aren't that hard to make nowadays. It's like, that was kind of the surprising is like how many AI models are out there and the rise of the either open or open weight, whatever you want to call them, models coming online. I think that will empower business quite a bit. And so I think we'll see more headless data solutions or software solutions where we're plugging into basically self-thriving proprietary business ecosystems built on their own AI. I think that will be the next frontier. I don't know what that looks like, but I think that's good. I don't want, Claude to be my only choice. I don't want, ChatGPT. I mean, I think it's pretty clear the frontier models. I can't really tell the diff. I mean, yes, Google doesn't really have a harness or a coding solution, but everyone else does. So that will be kind of interesting to see how that plays out. They'll buy one. I know they'll buy one now that Demi got fired. You see that? Demi Sasabi got moved over to chief scientist. Wow, that was crazy. So
Yeah. The coolest tool I saw at this conference, and now I can't even remember the name of it, but it is just a platform that agentically allows you to modify off-the-shelf open weight models for whatever your purpose is. So you get to use their agent to train your own custom model, and then you download it, and that is your model to do with as you please. And it just blows. It's something that somebody like me can do, right? So that's what I'm going to be doing next week, is playing around with how do I mess around with my little llama model I have running on my Mac. So we'll see.
That's cool.
Cool. I want to hear more about that one, Nate. Let's sync up.
Okay.
Cool. That's all we got. Any other updates we want to close with, or is that a wrap?
I think that's it.
That's a wrap.
Happy
Nate,
Friday,
how can
guys.
people find you? Anybody got a website or anything? We'll put it in the show notes. If not, if you're flying stealth, that's totally fine too.
No, you can check us out at smbadvisors.ai. And to our earlier conversation, I'm the worst LinkedIn person ever. So if you look at me on LinkedIn, you won't see anything useful.
Yeah, don't bother DMing him. He won't answer. All right, just get on his website, fill out a form, just like the rest of us. So. All right, thank you, gentlemen.